Thank everyone for their attendance. We will begin with the invocation by the Reverend Lynn Hardaway, pastor of Blackwater Baptist Church. If everyone would stand for the invocation and then remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance. We welcome you.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we're thankful to you for your goodness and your grace in our lives through the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you for the leadership you've given us in this city, for these new members that are on this city council this year. May 2017 be a year of prosperity for Virginia Beach. May you give these folks opportunities and wisdom to meet those opportunities. We pray that you will help them sort through the issues that citizens disagree on to make the best judgments for the sake of the city. Lord, we thank you for our first responders. Keep them safe. We thank you for our schools, our administrators and teachers and staff. May this be a banner year for them and keep them safe. And Lord, may your grace rest upon this city and upon our nation. We'll thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend, thank you for coming down. You have the roll call, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, all members are present.
Do you have a motion for the certification of the closed session, please?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
Mrs. Abbott, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Verbal aye.
Do you have a motion for approval of the minutes of December 13, 2016?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? Call for the question, please.
Mrs. Abbott, would you push your green button or whichever?
Oh, don't I abstain?
Hey, yellow, yes. Yes, same button. The vote is 8-2, or 8-0, 9-0, excuse me, I can't count.
We got it?
We got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there any speakers for the Agricultural Reserve
No, Your Honor.
Agreement? I open the public hearing for that, and there are no speakers. I will now move forward to the consent agenda. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval on the consent agenda. First, under ordinances and resolutions, item I-2, which is a resolution to extend the cable franchise agreement with Verizon Virginia, Inc. And item 3, which is ordinance to authorize acquisition of ARP easement from Gen Phil LLC at 2500 West Landing Road in the Princess Anne District. Madam Clerk, please note that Mr. Moss is voting no on that item.
Yes, Your Honor.
Planning.
I open a public hearing for planning.
Under planning for consent, item J1, which is the application of Shannon Dupre, Inc., Ri Wong, A., and Rakan Zhang. I hope I'm getting this right, folks. Hugh Lin Chen for a conditional use permit in the Bayside District. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
I vote of 10-0 with Mr. Moss, 11-0 with Mr. Moss showing a nay vote on the ordinance for the acquisition of ARP. We have adopted a consent agenda.
We only have one issue left, and that's under ordinances and resolutions. Number 1, resolution to grant an additional extension for compliance to USM regarding the arena development. Each speaker will be granted 3 minutes to speak, and I will have to hold everyone to that to be fair to everyone. So if you will call the speakers, please, Madam Clerk.
First speaker is Joe Bilek. Next speaker to be ready is Brian Stevens.
We welcome you today, sir.
Good evening, Council. Congratulations, Jessica,
Thank
on making it here. This is great honor for you, I'm sure. I'd just like to share my opinion of why I don't believe you should grant an extension for the arena deal. And it all has to do with a lot of recent history, okay? Recent history tells us that the longer we wait, the more we find out, the more the public finds out, and these deals are not as good as they technically seem, okay? Some of the recent things that we've gone through in Virginia Beach here, and I don't really have to, go through the whole list with everybody. I mean, the PGA golf course was a failure. The Sportsplex was a long time coming to really turn into something. The Virginia Beach Neptunes, what's happened to that whole baseball team prospect? That's gone away. The Virginia Beach Destroyers, where are they now? The Alaskan project, last minute, all of a sudden, Alaskan project, we needed to spend a lot more taxpayer money than talked about it at the front end, before we finally finished up that project. And the same thing is happening with the Cavalier project as well. We're reading that all in the news. It's nothing I'm not giving any earth-shattering news here, but these projects seem to just keep lingering on and on and on, taking more and more taxpayer money. And this arena deal seemed too good to be true from the beginning. And now it just seems to be falling apart. It seems like every time there's another extension. And those extensions are going to end up costing taxpayers money, I'm sure. Those extensions, along with things that may be needed down the road that we haven't even talked about, are a good reason why the arena really isn't needed at this point. What's going to happen with the parking situation? We'll probably end up having to foot the bill for a parking garage. Somebody's going to ask a question about, do we need a hotel down there? We've all talked about the headquarter hotel here for many, many, many years. We build an arena down here, or somebody builds an arena down here, that's going to come as a question as well. Those are all added expenses, along with all these ancillary things that are being asked for up front, as far as road improvements and such, that are being talked about to count or spend anywhere between $80 million and, well, I'm going to say $100 million of taxpayer money after it's all said and done, are just all red flags to me. I had a lot more to say, but I just want to say I wish you would not grant the extension based on the fact that if this was such a great deal, the other cities would be clamoring for it now that we are just going on and on and on with it. The rest of the cities would be saying, hey, bring it on with us, because this is such a great deal.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
Brian Stevens, and the next would be Reed Grenham.
We welcome you tonight.
Mayor Sessions, distinguished members of the City Council, City Manager, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening, and Happy New Year to you all.
Back to you.
My name is Brian Stevens, and as always, it's my great privilege to serve this region as the President and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. I say it's a privilege because I believe in this region, and I believe in its tremendous potential. It is my job as President of the Chamber to lead the efforts to set the conditions for businesses to succeed in Hampton Roads, which in turn creates more high-paying jobs, improves our economy, and enhances the quality of life of all of our citizens. I know that as we go into 2017, this distinguished group has the same objectives in mind. I last spoke to you in October about the importance of this arena project and moving this region forward to a world-class region. I spoke to you about the importance of having the capability and the capacity to host large, top-tier performances and events currently bypassed by this region. The importance of creating an environment where our millennials want to stay, to work, live, and to raise their families. And the importance of developing an incredible man-made arena and infrastructure to complement and exploit our God-given resources right here in Hampton Roads. I believe this arena project will do all that and then some. As Councilman Aaron said in October, this arena is a game changer for this area. I couldn't agree with you more, Councilman. So unquestionably, we all understand the potential positive implications of this project. But deals of this magnitude and complexity that involve a significant number of entities and individuals customarily require a great deal of time to bring to fruition. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, another 60 days to obtain the loan commitment is a very low risk, I would even argue a no risk decision when compared to the many benefits the arena project will bring to this region. I'd like to mention another important fact to consider as you make your decision, and that's who you're giving the 60-day extension to. It's been my experience both in the military and in business. One of the most important things to consider when making a decision is the trustworthiness and character of the people that you're dealing with. You all know the person and the organization that's spearheading this effort in Hampton Roads. She is a businesswoman of tremendous character, morals, values, and integrity. She's a person that you can trust. I trust her, and therefore she's the type of person that I would want to do business with. I would think that the city of Virginia Beach would do so as well. So on behalf of the Hampton Roads Chamber, I commend this council for their vision in partnering with the United States management on this project and ask you to vote in favor of the extension request. Thank you very much for your time, and again, Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you for coming down tonight. Next speaker, please.
Reed Grenham and Ross Ferrer.
We welcome you. How are you?
Good to see you, Mayor. Happy New Year, everyone. Nice to see you. I couldn't disagree with the Chamber of Commerce more for many points, and those are not in my notes. So I'll try to get through my points and then maybe address some of the things he just told you. Things have changed since the last time you approved this deal. The citizens came out on a referendum, and they told you we don't want light rail, and we stopped light rail. This arena, next to the convention center, will create a traffic nightmare that you don't have a solution for. So we need to go back and reconsider it. The gentleman from the chamber was right when he said these deals are complicated and they take a lot of time. My dad is a pretty good businessman. You don't hear me talk about him much, but he taught me a few things, and one of them was, if you walk away from a bad deal, then you're in a better negotiating position when they bring it back the next time. And as he pointed out, the first speaker, people are not clamoring in the other cities for this deal. So, in light of the light rail referendum vote, and in light of the fact that your own planning talks about $113 million in oceanfront flood abatement projects, again, something that's going to come out of the TGI fund and additional taxes, that's a much higher priority than it is investing in an entertainment venue, which isn't really the function of a local government to begin with. That's a private sector function. So rather than spending $78 million or $100 million or whatever you are, you've already got a $113 million bill you've identified for the oceanfront for flood abatement. That is your job to take care of. So I would encourage you to say no, let them come back and bring you a better deal at a later date, and look at the higher priority things you need to do as city council and take care of those issues first before we get involved in nice-to-haves like this. I'm not opposed to the arena at all. I don't think it's the right location for it. I think it's a good project. But it isn't a local government's job, and it's not my job as a taxpayer to subsidize it. So please think about this. Conditions have changed since the last time you voted yes. I love Andrea Kilmer, but this deal keeps changing. So let's say no and have them bring you back a better deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Ross Ferrer and Martin Joseph.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Thank you so much. Well, happy 2017, everyone, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, and congratulations, Jessica Abbott. Welcome, Councilman Abbott. This is an awesome first session, and it's going to be a great year and a great city in the world. I'm looking forward to speaking to you tonight on my support for the arena and the extension that's up for the vote today. My name is Ross Vieira. I have a company called Axis Global Enterprises and ASI Security that's based right here in Virginia Beach. I'm a military man who served here for almost a decade, serving the United States Navy. I've lived here with my family for almost 40 years and grown up in this wonderful city and watched these projects that have come into fruition from concept all the way to fruition and help make our ocean front and our city a better place to live and to raise a family and to grow a business. We employ almost over 34 people in our company. Most of our people that we employ are in the millennial generation. These are folks that are in their early 20s all the way to 40s. And what brings them here and what they need to stay in our area is something that's exciting, something that will give them opportunities to do outside of the summer lifestyle that we have that's so popular and so important, which is our tourism base. And that's what this arena does for our community. And we need to be able to allow folks to have these opportunities so that business owners can help continue to recruit millennials. Millennials can stay in our community, in our town. Other cities are out there watching this deal. They're watching Virginia Beach very closely. They are watching this vote tonight, and how you guys vote this evening will dictate how aggressively they will start to take over this project. This project is popular. People want an arena. Somebody in Hampton Roads is getting an arena. Virginia Beach needs to be that place that gets the arena. Tonight, all that is being asked for is 60 days. Sometimes it takes longer than that just to get a home loan or a mortgage. We're talking about a very, very large, very complex deal. And what they say in life, if it's a greatest things in the world are worth waiting for, give them 60 days. Let's figure out this deal. Let's get it into fruition. Let's watch a beautiful arena come out of the ground right here in Virginia Beach and not let another city have it. Thanks so much for having me tonight, and wish you all the best in 2017.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Martin Joseph and Bob Golden.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Happy New Year, everyone. Mr. Mayor, distinguished city council members, I'm Martin Joseph, a nearly lifetime citizen of the city of Virginia Beach and a small business owner. I'm here tonight to voice my continued support for the arena project and encourage you to approve a 60-day extension to USM to be able to obtain the suitable financing to be able to build the Virginia Beach Arena. This project has many stakeholders, but I firmly believe that the citizens in the city of Virginia Beach are truly the largest benefactor. An arena built at our convention center site would prove to be a year-round destination that will extend our tourism season, help our hotel and restaurant operators, and hundreds of other small businesses like local fishermen, farmers, and craft brewers. It'll also help keep our millennial generation living and working here in Virginia Beach in hopes that one day they'll raise a family here. The projected economic development surrounding the arena project will add to the tax base and add thousands of more jobs here in our city. You know, and the fact of the matter is that, as we well know it, this arena project really hasn't cost the taxpayer any money at all to date. And just simply allowing them another 60 days extension, I think, is absolutely fair for us to have the hopes to be able to pull this project together and rally in support of putting an asset that's worthy of an arena, an asset like an arena here in Virginia Beach where it rightfully deserves to be. So I would urge you all to please vote yes. Please give the extension to USM, and it's time to make the arena a reality here in Virginia Beach. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Next speaker, please.
Joseph Clark and Russell Lyons. Joseph Clark. Russell Lyons be next.
We welcome you tonight.
It's actually Josh Clark, but good afternoon. Mayor Sessoms, Vice Mayor Jones, ladies and gentlemen, Virginia Beach City Council, welcome Jessica, congratulations. Here to represent the Tidewater Builders Association and our support for the arena project. We represent over 700 businesses in the field of residential home construction in Hampton Roads, and many of these businesses are located right here in Virginia Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, for 3 years, this local company's invested in this project. They spent their time, their effort, and most importantly, their money. I think the total right now is $7 million, to be exact, invested in the arena project for Virginia Beach. They've worked with local, national, and internationally renowned firms, all with the goal of diligently pursuing the dream of bringing a world-class entertainment and sports arena venue here to Virginia Beach. Not Norfolk, not Chesapeake, not some other region, not some other state, right here in Virginia Beach. The economic catalyst could have a significantly positive impact on our community, and TBA thinks, given their substantial investment and this potential impact to the city and its economy, ESG should at least be given the courtesy of a 60-day extension. It's not hurting anyone, it's not hurting anything, it's just giving them a little more time to get everything in order. Because the project has the potential to bring in $500,000 in sales tax revenue annually to the city, a potential to bring in $1.7 billion in economic impact over 20 years, and it's projected to generate over 65,000 hotel nights stays annually and potentially 2,000 jobs. We hope that you'll agree that the 60-day extension is the least that this Virginia Beach can do. You guys have been given all the information, and I know that based on that and based upon the criteria that you've been given, you'll make the best decision you can. I also know that Andrea and her team, they've all done their homework, and they've done their due diligence in vetting the appropriateness of this project to Virginia Beach. So I appreciate your time and consideration, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Russell Lyons and George Menz.
We welcome you, sir.
Thank you all for your time today. My name is Russell Lyons, and I am here today as president of the Virginia Beach Hotel Association to ask your support in granting this extension to USM. Our association continues to be encouraged by this project, or by the prospect of a privately financed arena at the Virginia Beach oceanfront, and it remains the Hotel Association's #1 priority. Just 2 days ago, we even began an additional $1 per night tax increase on hotel occupancy intended to financially support this development, which our community overwhelmingly endorsed as a means to support the arena without adding any additional burden to the Virginia Beach taxpayer. We view this project as the single greatest catalyst for developing the city into a year-round destination for our visitors and an unparalleled amenity for our entire region. It would be a shame if, after so much investment and good faith effort from a local developer, City Council shuttered the possibility of this arena when it is on the cusp of achieving financing. No other viable alternative could possibly arise in the next 60 days that would outweigh granting this extension to a partner that has worked tirelessly to land what would be a nationally recognized development in our own backyard. Our association has full faith in the team at USM, and we cannot speak more highly of their level of professionalism, communication, and transparency throughout the process. We hope that City Council sees in USM the same level of dedication to making this project a reality, and we ask that you continue to support this development while a viable means to financing continues to exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
George Menz and Pat Caldwell. Or
We welcome you, sir.
Happy New Year to all. Good evening to all.
Happy New Year to you, sir.
For the record, I'm E. George Menz, president of CTAC Community Civic League, and I did sign up as a representative of the CTAC community, which normally has more than 3 minutes. At any rate, I would suggest humbly and respectfully that your first duty is to be fair to all businesses in the city of Virginia Beach, not just a special interest, all business. So far, that has not occurred in Virginia Beach. You have a class of businesses to decide, whether it be small, women, minority, African-American businesses that have from 0 to maybe 4 or 5% opportunity to do business. So far, the previous council, now that we have a new council, haven't lifted a finger, even though a number of those businesses are willing to pay half the cost for a disparity study. So far, the city council haven't lifted a finger. That relates to this because when you compare it side by side, here, number one, city council gave a timeline for something to be done. Obviously, that has not been done. That's why an extension is being requested. Nothing against the company or the people involved with that company, as I've said in previous occasions. CTAC as a community has nothing against an arena. In fact, if it was another location, not at our front door when we only have one intersection and 10,000 cars, surely would just disrupt everything. If the arena was being built in one of the vast open areas of the city, CTAC be all for it. We'd be drum majoring too. But given the fact that the city council, previous council, denied to transfer the land for the purpose of building a building. So what purpose is it for an extension to get a loan to build a building for which don't have the land? That's the face value of this. I would think that this matter is moot until council decide whether or not to transfer the land that would obviously be necessary to build what it is you're seeking to finance. Thus, since on one hand, as it relates to the CTAC community, the adverse impact has not been addressed, the public safety for CTAC has not been addressed, the denial of opportunities to other business, so there's not liberty and justice for all persons in business in the city of Virginia Beach. Why then have a special privilege for just certain ones. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Pat Caldwell and Valerie Wilkinson.
We welcome you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year.
Same to you, sir.
Council Millennial Woman Abbott, how are you?
Good.
My name is Pat Cardwell. I was here before testifying against the arena deal, and I talked a lot about the actual metamorphosis of the transaction, so I won't do that tonight. But let me start by saying that I believe the real reason for this extension really doesn't have to do with the financing. I believe what it is that USM wants to come back and renegotiate the entire transaction, because they went from a bank to investment-grade bonds to junk bonds, which you all wouldn't do, thankfully. And my guess is they haven't made any much further progress on that. Secondly, no one in this room, to my knowledge, is opposed to an arena. We just would prefer not have this much undetermined taxpayer liability. For example, with the junk bonds, we don't even know what the interest expense is going to be to us. We don't want to see it clog up the communities like SeaTac and others that are around the area. And we'd like to see, as Mr. Min said, put it in a spacious area somewhere else. Also, I read in the paper a lot about this so-called legal opinion provided by McGuire Woods, and I finally had a chance to read it. Rest assured, ladies and gentlemen in this room, this is not a legal opinion. It is an advocacy piece. It is a legal brief arguing on behalf of USM. It is not the kind of opinion that examines both sides of the deal and then, like every law firm for malpractice purposes, heavily disclaims it at the end because they don't want to be held accountable for their, quote, opinion. This is, and on the first page of Mr. Lamb's brief, he talks about this brief evaluates and this legal brief relates to. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an opinion. It's far from it. And let's talk about USM for a minute. USM is a special purpose vehicle, a special purpose entity. It was set up just for the reasoning of this transaction. I'm not saying that this is Enron, like a bad special purpose entity, but what I am saying is it does limit the liability of ESG. It does limit any requirement that they actually stand behind USM in any way, and I suspect if they did stand behind it, it would mess up their bond rating, their personal financials, and the other company's financials. So don't. It's specifically designed. That's why when it went from 40 million to 20 million, I suspect that was ESG saying, "Hey, we got to limit our liability further because this deal doesn't look good. Don't extend it. Just bid it. For once, let's see if we can try to find a place where we all agree in common ground."
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Next speaker, please.
Valerie Wilkinson and
We welcome you tonight.
Thank you, Council, and Happy New Year to all of you.
Same to you.
I'm Valerie Wilkinson, and I serve as the CFO of USM. Several months ago, the Inside Business article entitled "The 7-Year Hitch" explained why large development projects take an average of 7 years to complete. The VBDA's own Warren Harris and Mark Warner were quoted as saying that it is securing financing that is the most challenging part of any project. And it is indeed challenging, especially for a large and unique project. But I'm happy to report that we are making great progress. We're working daily with a major U.S. lender who has extensive arena and stadium experience and a strong relationship with AEG, our venue manager, who is a premier operator and promoter worldwide. The lender is working diligently with a consortium, which is typical of loans of this size and type, to finalize their internal process using a project finance model with no bonds and the goal of issuing a commitment to meet the terms of our December 2015 agreement. Evolving the finance structure away from bonds has meant adding additional project finance participants, as well as different departments, credit criteria, and approval processes. So the logistics to meet the January 7th date have been complicated and a little further complicated by the holidays. The FDIC recommends that banks require all officers and employees take no less than an uninterrupted 2-week time off each year. So that's meant several of the key decision makers have not been available to us over the holiday period. But they're back, and just today, the credit groups were meeting again on our commitment. So as the CFO of AEG Worldwide has independently confirmed to you, we're actively working with a major domestic bank to obtain a loan commitment which meets the terms of our current agreement. We're requesting the 60-day extension to allow the bank time to finalize their credit and legal review process. We are not asking for any changes to our underlying agreement, any additional financial support from the city, or to extend any of the other dates in our agreement. When our agreement was originally approved, Councilman Moss was kind enough to thank us for our patience. It had been about a 2.5-year process with the city because this is a large scope, size, and unique project. And during the 13 months since we moved from Chinese to domestic financing and now to the bond financing, and we're in the final stages, and we ask for your patience with us for no more than 60 days so we can complete the commitment process.
Thank you very much
I
for
have a
coming down.
question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
You said in your comments that you would be abiding by the terms of the agreement. Does that mean that your borrowing will not exceed $170 million and your equity will be at least $40 million?
The contract calls for us to be generally consistent with that.
Okay, so it's a qualified statement. Thank you.
No, it's exactly per the terms of the
I know,
agreement.
but it's not, it could be more than $170 million.
Yeah, the agreement says generally consistent.
Yes, ma'am. I'll read the agreement.
Next speaker,
Jen.
please.
I think that's fantastic.
We welcome you tonight, sir.
Well, Happy New Year, people.
Same to you,
See
sir.
you all young and chipper and happy and gay and waiting for me to get out of the way. Anyways, I am, of course, in opposition to the arena being built where it is. I never liked it in the first place there. Thought of a lot of different places where they could stick it, but nobody wanted to do that. Anyways, why am I still in opposition? Well, when I first came here, I used to go to a place called, let me think, the Dome for Entertainment down here at Virginia Beach.
Yes, sir.
And it was torn down with the promise that something was going to be built there. Years, well, they built a parking lot there. So why am I in opposition to the arena where it is? Well, one reason may be the fact that you're going to bring a lot of traffic in down there. And it was going to be the purpose of the light rail to eliminate some of that traffic. That fell through. One of the major problems that you have is the neighborhood surrounding it will be adversely affected by parking, traffic, and et cetera. And these people were here long before the city of Virginia Beach was ever a city. And slowly but surely, you're seeing them being pushed out of the way until maybe someday they won't even be but a memory in some people's minds. Another reason for my opposition is $76 million in infrastructure repair work that needs to be done in order for you to put the arena there. And I've been told countless times that this money is not coming out of the taxpayers. It's not going to cost the taxpayer a dime. But in reality, the money is coming from money being skimmed off the profits, the taxes, revenue from the oceanfront, just like you skim off the money off of town center for the purpose of developers. They're the ones that benefit from that. We have a sixth ceiling as to how much money that's generated down there that we get. So that means the arena is going to have a fixed ceiling on it also, which means more money going into redevelopment. But that helps the developers. It doesn't help the citizens of the beach. And I can see I'm running out of time again, and I'll say to you, have a nice New Year.
Happy
Thank
New Year to you, and it's good to see you. Next speaker, please.
Andrew Kilmer.
We welcome you, ma'am.
Happy New Year, Mayor,
Happy New Year to you.
council members, city manager. Welcome, Councilwoman Abbott. I am Andrea Kilmer. I'm sure all of you know who I am at this point, and the president and CEO of USM, the developer of the arena. Since our development agreement was approved a year ago, 2016 was a time of political volatility and unpredictable financial markets. As Valerie Wilkinson, our CFO, advised, we have been working expeditiously to finalize our loan. We do anticipate a commitment to be forthcoming that will be generally consistent with the December 2000 development agreement as it calls for, and actually upgraded, as it will not be an overseas lender or require foreign content. Earlier today, we delivered a list for your consideration of the supporters that combined employ or represent tens of thousands of Virginia Beach residents and citizens. This request for an extension has brought a lot of discussion about the project itself, and I want to remind you what brought us here. The arena will serve as an iconic and economic catalyst for the city and region and have a significant positive impact on our community and further the city's longtime vision for the oceanfront. It is an opportunity to bring a world-class facility to my hometown, to our hometown, that minimizes the risk to the city. It does not impact the city's bond rating or reduce its debt capacity. It does not have a negative impact on the general fund and is solely funded by the tourism investment program and taxes generated by the facility itself. It will attract sports, political conventions, religious gatherings, and cooperations with the hotels and convention center that were previously impossible, such as the NCAA and ACC tournaments that will fill hotel rooms in the darkest of winter. It creates the potential for a professional sports franchise. We literally have traveled around the world, visited arenas across the country, focused our staff on this project for 3 years, and spent millions of dollars pursuing this dream, all with City Council's overwhelming support. The industry and the lender have their eyes not only focused on us, but the City of Virginia Beach, waiting for the outcome of this evening and this project. We're on the brink of putting the last block in place. We, along with our team, SB Ballard, Clark Nexon, AECOM, and internationally recognized AEG, will build a facility that will make everyone proud and will create memories of a lifetime for our visitors and citizens. We are laser focused on reaching this goal, and I ask for your support for this 60-day extension to only submit our loan commitment and look forward to our groundbreaking.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Mr. Wood, would you be kind enough to disclose the resolution changes that was just passed out, please? Or John?
I think Mr. Herman was going to make a motion. So.
Okay, well, John, I'll let you do that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to make the motion to approve the extension as requested in our packets with the additions that were discussed in closed session, which essentially dictate that it is an extension for just the 60 days and that the terms would have to be met before that. And if they were not met, that the city manager would then be directed to go ahead and issue a termination of the agreement at that time.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moss.
Well, I think it's important to note that this resolution really isn't even necessary. We were informed today, and we have been informed in the past, that under the agreement, until such time as the city council by an affirmative vote directs the city manager to notify USM that we are exercising our option at the expiration of any agreement, that the agreement is nullified, the agreement is always in place. Interesting. So in fact is, if we took no action tonight and took no action even by June 1st, and they submitted something on June 1st that complied, this agreement would be in place. It is in place until such time as this council actually, per the agreement, directs the city manager to write a letter notifying USM it's terminated. The agreement is in place until that happens. That's just a legal fact. Now you could say, because that was a discussion today, is, well now, because this resolution states that if we don't get something on the 61st day, the city manager is directed to send that letter, which would in fact terminate the agreement. But, and you could assume that that would happen, I do not. I think we're just in good a shape by taking no action, leaving the agreement in place and therefore been able to negotiate and issue at the point of our choosing when we wish to terminate the agreement to bring people to more expeditiously work on getting to the terms. I have supported the terms, which is why I asked about the $170 million and the $40 million. And what you kind of heard is, and I blame myself for not being more judicious in taking the words, because there is I call it the rubber band effect, because it says generally consistent, and I know you heard those words here tonight. Well, is $180 million of debt generally consistent? Is $200 million generally consistent? So there's a band of which in here is still fungibility. It certainly wasn't what I was thinking when I was voting, but I understand if you don't read closely, ask enough questions, and I ask a lot, that you have to live with what you vote for. But my point being is, we have an agreement. Now you have to ask yourself is, there was an illusion about financing. This city council never provided any direction to USM as to where they should go and get their financing. They told us where they thought they were going to be getting it. The agreement does not specify the source of financing or the source of origin for the content in the building. They could get their money from Bank of Thailand or Bill Gates or Paul Allen, lots of places they could get, but they chose. And they chose through the process to change and responding to sensitivities in the community, a choice they had, because guess what? If they had come in with the Chinese loan and all that stuff, the city manager would have executed this agreement without any further action by us because we had agreed to it. So they chose to go to bonds, and that's their choice. So they did, and we gave an extension to allow that to happen. Then, in the 60 days, I don't know if they spent more time getting a legal opinion than they spent on financing. That's, I don't know what they did, but now they're here. Now, I heard talk about the trustworthy and character of all this stuff, and they have been good people to work with. They are good folks. But they didn't fully disclose until the bond extension was happening that in the original deal, $25 million of the $40 million of equity was Chinese sourced. Did that make a difference in the agreement? No, it didn't. It wouldn't have made any difference. Would we might have voted for it if we didn't or didn't know that? I don't know. But it wasn't full disclosure. We didn't know it. The public didn't know it. So I think we're going to get the best deal, and I think Mr. Greenman talked about it, is if rather than giving a time certain, because I don't know that we'll really enforce that personally, when we got there, if we got close, we'd still say, oh, we're just this far, is we might as well just leave the agreement in place. And when we think enough time has expired, just direct the city manager to notify him it's over. Because that's the same as this. So if they think they needed 61 days, would we say, oh, they're just a day away from getting the thing that we all would like to see, or maybe like to see? No, we would do what? We would overwrite this. So we're much better off leaving the agreement in place until we think we've waited long enough, and then just direct the city manager to send a letter saying the agreement is over. So I think this is a false representation of certainty. Now, to put that to point, and I know this is a big issue, but when the city manager did meet with USM with the vice mayor, and I won't go into all that because I would try to respect that, but his letter is certainly in the public record. These are the things that we were supposed to know for us to consider before we voted tonight. The identity of the lender or lenders, the amount and term of amortization of the loan, the anticipated interest rate or range of rates being discussed, the anticipated debt service, will there be debt service reserves? If so, much, and who funds? Will there be an interest reserve? The pre-funding of interest due to be paid during the construction period? If so, how much? On what terms can equity be withdrawn once contributed? And the phrase before that was, prior to that meeting, the vice mayor and I are requesting for council to evaluate the extension request. Now, for all the reasons they suggested, they aren't able to provide that specificity, and I appreciate that. All the more reason then not to grant an extension request specifically, but just let the agreement stay on the table and provide no direction to rescind it. To me, I think to grant this extension request, I think the mayor means what he says when he sends it, that if we're granting an extension, we should be getting all this information, which we did not get. So therefore, I believe the only course of action we can have if we respect ourselves and what we write is to take no action to rescind the deal and give such time to USM as this council is willing to tolerate, and then terminate the agreement.
Thank you, sir. Other comments? Mr. Ern? Oh, Bobby, then Mr. Ern.
Yeah, thank you. You know, this is indeed a complex issue. It was a complex project. And I think everybody on this dais knows that I have not been a champion of public-private partnerships. What I saw with this deal several years ago was an opportunity for a new horizon where projects come in and the developer is willing to assume the costs and a lot of the liability. Yes, are we paying some money in infrastructure costs? Yes, but based on my understanding, a lot of those infrastructure costs were necessary to be done anyway. So the uniqueness of this deal, what I was hoping would be a template going forward, that instead of doing a lot of public-private partnerships with public participation, that, you know, if we do a convention hotel, somebody would come in and build it. Somebody would come in and build the dome site, you know, on their own dime and not necessarily with the public. And, you know, the point is, though, I'm very, very concerned, you know, going forward, as local government is going to be more and more responsible, more of an epicenter for, you know, surviving with less money coming in from the feds and the state. We got to create business. We got to send a positive message to the business community that, yes, Virginia Beach is open for business, and we welcome business. And what I see here right now is 3 principal companies that are Virginia Beach-based going through a very long and tedious process. And I think as a courtesy, you know, an extension would give a positive message to the lenders that, you know, we're serious, that we want this. I'm sorry it took so long, and I'm sure everybody on this dais, and I'm sure, you know, the principals involved. But, you know, the deal was complex. But let me just say, going forward, that we have to have an improved culture of inclusion and opportunity that we want to convey to the public, that Virginia Beach is open to business to anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, John Ern.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's a reminder to the public to recognize that tonight we are in no way considering changing the deal that has been previously approved. All of the basic tenets that we've talked about for several years now are still hold true. The most basic one, I think, to many of us here at the dais is that no one who is going to pay for this facility unless they're a user of the facility or they are a hotel guest in Virginia Beach. And there's been a lot said that, you know, other cities in our region are not clamoring to take this over the same deal. But a lot of the cities in the community and in our region do not have the opportunity to co-locate this facility directly across the street from a first-class convention center and have all the symbiotic relationship that happens with that. They also do not have a vibrant hotel community that can provide that additional revenue that actually makes this the deal of the possible. So, you know, there's been some stuff that has been talked about today in terms of traffic and parking, and I'd like to remind this council and the public as a whole that much of the city's contribution to this deal is to improve the traffic and the parking in that entire corridor. And absent this project and absent those city expenditures, those will not occur. And we need to also recognize that, as we've talked about for many years now, the big dates, the times where there is going to be high utilization of this facility are in the low demand periods for the resort. So these traffic and parking improvements that would be made are going to be in effect all year round. I mean, I think most notably for 4th of July weekend, where we will have the ability to flush the resort in a much more expeditious way than we have today. For them to ask for a 60-day extension and for us to formally bless that today, I think is a reasonable thing for the developer to ask. And I think that it certainly gives some comfort to their lenders that this is still an active deal. And as long as this process is taken, I certainly do not object to them having the additional 60 days to do that. I think that the council has been very clear that we do have to have a finite time for this deal to either come to pass or to move on. And I think that the end of this 60 days is the appropriate time to do that.
Mrs. Henley.
I wasn't going to say anything because I've said so much, and all of the things that I said when I voted initially no still stand. But when you just mentioned parking, that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back here. And one thing that has not been factored into the city's cost will be the building of parking garages, which I'm absolutely certain are going to happen because the city is responsible for providing the parking places, but we can't even charge for the parking. I think the fact that we don't have all of that data is very troubling to me. And, you know, we get really upset because some other of our public-private partnerships get one component of their but-for taxes given back to them. Remember, every single cent of directly generated tax money from this arena will go back to the arena, not to the city. This is such an extensive project that I just have not been able to support it since we were told in December of 2015 that we absolutely had to vote in favor of it in December of that year because they must have had that in December of that year in order to get their funding from their lender at that time. And here we are late now into 2017, still giving extensions. I'm sorry I couldn't support it first, and I can't support it now.
Thank you, ma'am. Other comments? Mr. Wood?
I just wanted to clarify for the people that don't have the benefit of having this document in front of them, that what we're actually, the motion that's on the table right now is the motion that's in, or is the resolution that's in the agenda, but it also has the third item that Mr. Earn mentioned, that affirmatively directs the city manager to terminate the agreement on the 61st day if these things aren't met. So that was just important to me that was in there because, you know, we talk a lot about this and we talk about the, you know, where we're going with this and agreements and extensions and things like that. The USM has said this is their final extension. They put that in writing. But I think this actually memorializes this and gives us some measure of assurance that that's the case.
Thank you very much. Other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Many of you know, I conducted a survey, which was shared on USM's Facebook page in addition to my own. And largely, the city or the individuals that were surveyed opposed the project as a whole. But what's more interesting to me is that more people opposed giving a finance extension than just outright opposed the project as a whole. That said, the western part of the city also greatly opposed the project and additional extension for financing. And my specific district, Kempsville, clocked in at 78% opposed 60-day extension. And so I'm concerned that if we don't have the support of the general public, the people who don't have the ability to bring someone to the table to advocate on their behalf, that I think in light of the new information that not giving the extension doesn't terminate the agreement, that I don't believe I can support the project or the 60-day extension at this time.
Thank you. Other comments? I'll wind it up and then call for the question, but just a couple of things, and I'll be very quick. I do want to reiterate what John Earn has said. You know, this building will be paid for by the people who use it or people who are visiting with us in a hotel. And I think something that we do a very poor job of is also not acknowledging what the oceanfront does to help the whole city. And those revenues there do help every district in our city and do, as such, allow us to perhaps have a lower tax rate because of those additional revenues being generated from the oceanfront. And John, I'm going to challenge the Hotel Association. Let's start getting information out because Jessica just raised an issue that I think is legitimate, but I think it's a part of what we got to communicate. What does the oceanfront? It just doesn't. They basically pay for most everything they're doing down there with their taxes, but then there's some additional money that does go into the general fund. This is the final opportunity. I want to thank Mr. Jones and Mr. Wood for adding the clause in the resolution because I believe that USM wants to see it come to an end too. I mean, there's no need, we want to, obviously we want to make this thing happen successfully. That's the way I want it to end. But at the same time, we do not want it to drag out any further. And that final opportunity is to obtain a loan of approximately $170 million and equity of $40 million. Now, could it be a little bit more than 170 or a little bit less? Could be. Could be a little bit more than 40 million, too. We got to remember these things, these numbers will come to us in the next 60 days. I will reiterate that private financing, in my mind, is the only way to make this happen. I can assure you that I have enough sense to know that if the city were financing this, it would be done at a much cheaper interest rate, and as such would be a better business deal. But the city cannot, as we heard some of the comments from the public, we have stormwater infrastructure issues, schools to build, and therefore we cannot let that arena compete with those projects. That's the reason I feel like the private funding is the only opportunity we have to get this done. John Moss was right on target with what he said as far as saying this does not expire, this agreement. But I would come back and say to you, a signal not to move forward to the financial institutions would, in my opinion, not be something very healthy as far as allowing us to move forward with getting the financing. That being done, I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 8 to 3, you have adopted the revised resolution.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to, Jones and Sessoms are back. We don't have any appointments. Is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business? We will adjourn, but we have to remain for public comment.